Step into the shadows behind the blinding stage lights where the glitter fades and the true weight of global superstardom presses down on 7 young men. We've seen them conquer stadiums and rewrite history. But do you know the unspoken trials that nearly broke their spirits long before the world knew their names? What if I told you that their most legendary achievements were born from agonizing sacrifices, hushed tears, and moments of absolute solitude? Are you ready to peel back the curtain on the raw, unfiltered truth of the men behind the myth? Let's dive into the 7 heartbreaking stories that forged the legends we adore today. Number 7. Suga, the silent battle with darkness. Long before the stadium tours and the platinum records, Min Yoongi was fighting a silent, grueling battle that almost ended his journey before it truly began. Back in the cold, unforgiving streets of Daegu, he wasn't just a struggling artist. He was a young man battling a crushing sense of hopelessness that many would never dare to discuss publicly. Imagine living on a diet of meager instant noodles, walking miles to school because you couldn't afford the bus fare, and pouring every ounce of your soul into music tracks that no one seemed to care about. The pressure to succeed wasn't just a career ambition. It was a desperate attempt to prove his worth to a world that seemed to ignore his existence. He faced the brutal reality of poverty, often deciding between buying a meal or paying for the bus to get home. A heartbreaking choice for any teenager. This wasn't just about music, it was about survival. He worked a part-time job as a delivery boy, a job that ultimately led to a severe shoulder injury in a traffic accident, leaving him in agonizing pain for years while he continued to practice in secret, terrified that if he admitted his injury, he would be kicked out of the trainee program. The weight of the secret was immense. He lived in a constant state of anxiety, fearing that his dream was slipping away through his own physical limitations. He speaks openly in his mixtapes about the darkness he faced, the depression that clawed at him, and the obsessive need to be perfect just to Number 6. V. The loneliness of the golden mask. Kim Taehyung has always been the one to light up a room with that signature boxy smile, a radiant aura that feels effortlessly magnetic to everyone he encounters. But behind that carefully curated, charismatic exterior lies a story of profound, aching loneliness that hit him right at the peak of his career. Imagine being surrounded by thousands of screaming fans, living in the constant company of your closest brothers, and yet feeling like you are trapped behind a wall of glass, unable to truly connect or express the weight of your own existence. This is the paradoxical heartbreak of Harvey, a man who gave so much of his emotional energy to the world that he occasionally found himself drained to the point of complete silence. There was a specific, devastating period where the pressure of maintaining a perfect public image felt like wearing a suffocating mask, leading him to confess that he felt like he was losing touch with his authentic self. He grew up in a humble, loving farming family, and the sudden... Number 5. Jimin, the perfectionist's torturous reflection. Park Jimin was once a boy who believed he was never enough, a mindset that pushed him to the absolute brink of his physical and emotional capacity. Many fans remember his earlier days, where his dedication was so intense it bordered on dangerous, often spiraling into a cycle of self-criticism that was truly heartbreaking to witness. He carried the heavy burden of being the lead dancer and the angelic vocal backbone of the group, feeling a crushing responsibility to be technically flawless every single second. Imagine working until your feet bleed, sleeping only a few hours a night, and then spending those few precious hours staring into a mirror, picking apart every single perceived flaw in your appearance and your performance. Jimin's journey towards self-love is perhaps one of the most raw and honest arcs in the history of modern music. He once struggled so deeply with his body image and performance standards that he would skip meals for days just to maintain a look he felt the world demanded of him, a silent, painful battle that he kept hidden from the fans who adored him. It wasn't just about weight, it was about an all-consuming fear that if he wasn't perfect, he would be replaced, that he wouldn't be worthy of the love he was receiving. This deep-seated insecurity was exacerbated by the brutal nature of the industry, where every movement is recorded, analyzed, and critiqued by millions of people across the globe. He felt as though he had to constantly compensate for his perceived shortcomings.
Number 4. Jungkook, the weight of growing up in the spotlight. Imagine your entire adolescence being lived under the relentless, unblinking glare of a global spotlight, where every mistake you make is broadcast, analyzed, and etched into history. For Jungkook, the golden Maknae, this wasn't just a hypothetical scenario, it was his reality. Entering the industry at the tender age of 15, he was effectively stripped of his childhood and thrust into a world of immense, crushing responsibility. While other kids were navigating high school crushes and weekend hangouts, he was learning how to command a stage, handle intense media scrutiny, and carry the expectations of a burgeoning fandom on his young shoulders. The heart-wrenching part of his story is the profound sense of isolation that comes with being the youngest member. He constantly felt the pressure to prove that he deserved his spot, often overworking himself to an extreme degree just to match the level of the older, more experienced members. He has spoken candidly about the trauma of growing up in public, noting that he often felt like he didn't know who he was outside of the BTS bubble. He wasn't allowed the luxury of failing in private, nor could he easily seek help for the emotional toll of such an accelerated life. The sheer fatigue, the homesickness, and the terrifying realization that his every action would be judged by millions caused him to build a defensive wall around his true self, leading to moments of profound internal distress where he questioned if he had traded his soul for success. He sacrificed his formative years, his privacy, and his sense of normalcy, all while trying to maintain the polished, energetic image that the world demanded. There were nights, he revealed, where the loneliness felt so heavy he couldn't even put it into words, feeling a strange disconnect between the superstar Jungkook on stage and the confused, tired boy he felt he was inside. It was a high-stakes life where he had to grow up in the blink of an eye, and the process was nothing short of brutal. He didn't have the typical outlets for stress. He had to channel all his frustration, fear, and longing into his craft, becoming the perfectionist he is today as a coping mechanism to regain some sense of control over his chaotic environment. Watching him today, you see a man who has reclaimed his narrative, but you are also looking at a person who had to build his identity from scratch while the world watched his every step. He is a testament to resilience, but his story serves as a stark reminder of the hidden costs of early, intense fame. Do you think it is even possible to truly know oneself when your entire life, from your first awkward haircut to your deepest heartbreaks, has been documented and judged by millions before you even turn?
Number 3. Jin, the heavy sacrifice of eternal optimism. The man known as the worldwide handsome often hides the most profound sense of duty behind his quick wit and effortless humor. But Seokjin's journey is one defined by the quiet, heavy burden of being the eldest brother in an industry that demands everything. Imagine being the one responsible for the emotional stability of 6 younger, equally stressed individuals, while you are still grappling with your own fears about the future. When he joined the company as a trainee, he was a university student with a dream, completely untrained in dance or music, facing a grueling uphill battle to catch up to peers who had been training since childhood. The heartbreak lies in how often his genuine musical talents and hard work were overlooked, with critics focusing only on his visuals or calling him untalented during those early formative years. He swallowed that bitter pill, choosing to weaponize his positivity to shield his younger brothers from the harsh realities of the industry. He became the pillar, the one who cooked, the one who mediated arguments, and the one who kept the group's morale from collapsing. Number 2. J-Hope, the sun that had to burn in silence. Jung Ho-sok is the personification of hope, the vibrant, high-energy pillar that kept the group afloat when spirits hit rock bottom. But his story is perhaps one of the most poignant examples of how much an artist has to suppress to maintain the light. Imagine being the designated mood maker, the person everyone turns to when they need to laugh or feel encouraged, while you are personally struggling with the intense pressure of being the group's main dancer and a lead rapper. The heartbreak in his narrative is not found in a sudden catastrophe, but in the relentless, daily sacrifice of his own emotional comfort for the sake of the collective. During the early, uncertain years, Hoseok faced immense, cold-blooded criticism from some corners of the public who questioned his place in the group, a brutal reality that would have shattered someone with less internal resolve. He carried this weight in total silence, never showing his brothers how much the harsh words stung, because he knew they were already carrying their own burdens. He felt the terrifying, crushing responsibility of being the one who had to master the choreography, clean up the mistakes of others, and ensure that every performance was technically flawless, all while trying to develop his own unique style as a producer and lyricist. The exhaustion was so total that there were nights when he collapsed from the sheer physical demand, yet he would wake up hours before everyone else to continue practicing.
Number 1. RM, the intellectual titan carrying the weight of a world. Kim Namjoon is the architect of a revolution, the man whose shoulders hold the dreams, the reputations, and the future of 7 individuals. But his story is a haunting intellectual tragedy of isolation at the very summit of success. Imagine possessing a mind that is constantly analyzing, deconstructing, and questioning every single aspect of your existence, while simultaneously serving as the primary spokesperson for a global movement. The heartbreak of Namjoon's journey isn't just about the stress. It is about the crushing, existential loneliness of being the only one who truly understands the full scope of the pressure they face. As the leader, he was the one who had to mediate every internal conflict, the one who navigated the complex, often treacherous landscape of the music industry on behalf of his brothers, and the one who absorbed the brunt of every public controversy, no matter how unfair or unfounded. He has confessed, with painful honesty, that there were times when the RM persona felt like a weight so heavy it was physically crushing his spirit, leaving him feeling like a hollow shell of the person he once was. He sacrificed his own desire for a quiet, introspective life to become a symbol of something much greater, a trade-off that forced him to grow up in a hyper-accelerated environment where his intellectual curiosity was often